See, tonight we have Tom Beck, attorney at law in Los Angeles, who is defending Don Jackson, who really has a chip on his shoulder. And you know, Tom, it isn't just police. Tom has a problem. He says that a lot of the police are racists, but you know, he wrote an article in the Herald Examiner which really shows you the guy has a problem. He said, and I can't believe this, he said, every black, when they are born, they are branded a criminal. I don't believe that, do you? No! Now, how can he possibly say that if a person is born black, he is automatically branded a criminal? That tells me the man has a problem, doesn't it, you? Yeah! Now, do you want to respond to that, Tom?
I can't speak for Don Jackson that way. I haven't read the article. I don't know what he meant by that.
Well, I know what he... I think that's a very...
Well, how can you know what he meant by it? You've never talked to the man.
I think it's a very stupid thing because blacks are not born. People don't brand them as criminals. And let me ask you...
Unfortunately, too many police officers do.
Now, let me ask you... I want to bring Bill Bancroft into this. He's sitting in tonight for David Kennedy. He also is my security chief. And he's been in security, law enforcement for a long time. Bill, let me ask you now. You know the law. You've worked in law enforcement. When a car is pulled over, what's an officer supposed to think when the passenger gets out of the car and walks towards the arresting officer? What's he supposed to think?
Well, Wally, there's only one way to look at that situation. You've got to be prepared for that person walking towards you to do anything. Your assumption is he's going to try and attack you.
That's right. That's right.
There are a few officers who don't have or haven't had that approach, and most of them are in Forest Lawn right now.
That's exactly right. You see, I don't see how in the heck you have any case whatsoever. It's so obviously entrapment. I mean, you know, when the Channel 4, you see, here's Channel 4 News rolling away with their cameras. Obviously, Don Jackson is going to do anything he could to get those cops riled. You know, your client, Don Jackson, is a police officer himself. Stress leave from the Hawthorne Police Department. I think your client is a troublemaker. I think your client is trying to brainwash the American public into thinking all cops are bad. I think your client is a liar, and I think your client should really be called a fool. What do you think? When you say the majority of police in this country are brutal, do you believe that?
I don't believe that at all, not for a single minute. I'm kind of interested in exactly what Mr. Beck's interest in this case is. Is it money?
What is your interest? What are you trying to prove here? Hold it, gang. What are you trying to prove by defending Don Jackson, Tom?
Well, first and foremost, I have to represent him if the criminal case is filed against him. Second, if the criminal case is or isn't filed against him, I'm going to represent him in a civil rights action against the officers and the police department.
Do you know, I have a little bit of information that was passed along to me. Do you know that your client could be charged with a misdemeanor? Did you know that? Did you know? Maybe you didn't know this, Tom, but Section 148 of the California Penal Code prohibits any person from, quote, willfully resisting, delaying, or obstructing a police officer in the discharge of his duty. And I say that's exactly what Don Jackson did. What do you think? Now let me repeat that. The California Penal Code prohibits any person, Tom, from willfully resisting, which he did, delaying, which he did, or obstructing, which he did, a police officer in the discharge of his duty. He could be charged with a misdemeanor, and I think he should be. What do you think? How do you respond to that?
An officer who was behaving as Dickie wasn't discharging...
Oh, Dickie, he calls the officer.
Do you want my answer?
Hold it.
Do you want my answer?
Yes, what's your answer?
The answer is that in the eyes of the law, the officer who was behaving as Dickey wasn't lawfully discharging his duty. Therefore, anything Jackson did was not violation of that statute.
Well, I say he was doing his
you can
duty.
say whatever you want. You don't make the decision.
It's obvious, Tom. It's obvious. If you weren't so biased and slanted on behalf of your client, you would realize that he did do those things. He did resist. He did delay. He did obstruct. And he did try to provoke an incident. And you know it down deep in your heart. If you were honest to God, you'd say, Wally, you're right. And you'd quit the case and go home. And do you know also, it is possible that your client could also be charged with conspiracy.
To do what?
With conspiracy to set up.
I'm waiting. Let's hear it.
Set up the Long Beach Police Department. That's considered conspiracy. Who did he conspire with?
Where did you go to law school?
Who did he conspire with? He conspired with Channel 4, KNBC TV. Is that not conspiring? And I say Channel 4 News is equally to blame for being a part of this conspiracy. And I say it's a setup, and I say it's despicable, don't you? Let's go to the audience. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Charlie from Whittier.
Hold it down.
Hi, I'm Charlie from Whittier.
Quiet down. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Charlie from Whittier. And you said that they have no right to yell at people of getting out of their car. Who are you to say that? The cops do not know if they have a weapon. And I say, if somebody gets out of their car without willing coming or violently, the cops should shoot to kill.
Yeah, right on. Okay, Tom, you want to respond to that?
I won't dignify that remark by an answer.
All right, next, please. Yes. Okay, go ahead. You know why he won't dignify that? Because he knows that guy's right. Okay, go ahead. Can I have your first name, please?
Trisha.
Go ahead, Trisha.
Every day, a police officer steps out into the streets, and they're risking their own lives. There's criminals out there with automatic weapons.
Right.
Where's the line? What's the line drawn?
Where do you draw the line? Right. Do you know...
To protect their lives and the lives of innocent citizens.
Do you know, Trisha, no, hold on. Do you know, I'm glad you brought that up, Trisha. We'll go a little long here, Mikey. Okay, do you know, Trisha, I'm glad you brought that up because, number one, I failed to bring this up. It is a matter of fact that do you know that law officers lose their lives more often than any other way by pulling people over for traffic violations.
And they get shot.
They never know that there's a guy in there with a shotgun, with an Uzi, and when that cop comes towards a car, they are killed more often from stopping people for traffic violations than any other way. So what do you think those cops thought when they pulled over Don Jackson and he gets out of his car and starts walking towards them? What are they going to think? Isn't that right?
Right, they have to protect themselves.
Okay, do you want to ask Tom a question?
I want to know what this case is based on. I don't see a case. I think it was a setup.
Okay, go ahead, Tom. What is it based
Which
on?
part of your question do you want me to respond to first?
Boom, just take your choice. Just take your choice. Answer the last part. What is this based on?
Be a cop. You're a piece of gum. See if you can walk.
Quiet. Go ahead.
There's really two essential elements to this. One is he was stopped and arrested without lawful justification. And second, the officer, in the course of the arrest, used excessive force. That's it. No more, no less.
All right. I'm going to wind this up, and I'm going to tell you this, Tom, very, 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 very quickly. I want to see Don down here. I'd love to take him on eyeball to eyeball. I think you have no case. I think it was a setup. I think it was entrapment. I think you're out to discredit and disgrace and maybe even destroy the police in this country, and I think it's horrifying. And I say we should have no more Don Jacksons harassing our police. I'll be right back.